All right, welcome. Good evening, everyone. This is the Bowman podcast. We're recording here on episode 7. We got the usual crew, so let's go through some introductions. I'm going to go by my screen and what I see. So, top left corner, we have Troy from Greenlight. How you doing today?
Good, good. We're doing good
Good.
here in Ohio.
Like the new hat that you got on?
Oh yeah, fits nice.
Upgraded a little bit. Nice. Like to see that. All right, over on the right, we got Mr. Josh Miller with different background today.
Yep, at the
I
house this
see,
time in the
I
office.
see antlers in the
Yeah,
background, which is
yeah,
good.
bucks I've shot, stuff in the wall. Yeah, pictures. I've got
Nice.
one in the house. One I'm allowed one deer in the wall. So
There you go. So would your mounts get put down into the shop?
they're in the shop. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Good
except for
color
Tater.
choice though.
Well, Tater's over there. He's here.
Oh, okay. He's there with you. Good.
Yeah,
The
he's
big one's there.
yeah.
All right. Down left corner, we got Mr. Cedric O'Hara with his beautiful new hat, C2 Media. How you doing down there?
Yep, doing good. Doing good. Just another
Good.
beautiful day.
Great. And then Mr. Caleb Bateman over there, Seven Arrows. We got another prime hat on. That's what I like to see.
Yes, sir. I'm a
He's
little bit under the weather, so my voice is going to be a little weird, but I'm doing what I can.
still sensual as ever, so you're good.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear
Oh,
that.
very white.
You got a nice radio voice there, boy.
It's hurting right now. It's
Oh
hurting, but I
man.
got some medicine, so we'll be all right.
Good. Good, good. All right, so we're going to get into a little bit today, some talking about setups, different arrow setups, weights, different types for different game species or how we hunt. We're also going to talk a little bit into bow setup, what we like, what we don't like, rests, sights, wrist straps, quivers. Do you shoot with your quiver on, quiver off? All those kind of things, just to kind of give a little insight into what we do here. All of us are different, and I found that out by setting up everyone's bow this year. So next year it'll be a little bit easier because I know what you like and you don't like. But I'm going to start off with a question over to Caleb. So when you put a ham ski rest on, that dampener is supposed to be all the way at the bottom. Why do you move it to the middle, man?
I was actually playing with it because I was just kind of curious if it really mattered. Um, I
It
I
does.
didn't. Yeah, I mean, I noticed a little bit of difference through the video. So I actually right before we got on here, I did move it to the bottom. That was on the black bow that you sent, the Red X4, the black one.
Kraken.
Yeah, the Kraken. So yeah, I was just kind of playing with it.
Yeah.
I've never had the Epsilon until this year. So I've always had the Trinities with the springs and they're just always at the top. So I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
wonder why they didn't put this at the top then.
So the
Um,
dampener is at the bottom to absorb the impact of the string retracting. It also
yeah,
adds weight to the bottom of when it's at full draw and the cable's loose so that it doesn't come off if it's not tight enough
yeah.
or stretched, etc. But it's really to dampen that string vibration when it goes. And if it's at the top, you're going to get vibration up the string before it hits that dampener. So when it's at the bottom,
Oh,
it really kind of stabilizes it quickly and go from there. Does it matter? Probably not.
I the one
That's
thing
what
I
they recommend.
the one thing I did notice. So when you have that rubber, I don't even know which rubber damper, if you will, in the middle of that D-loop material, it wants to swing in towards your cables, but if
Yeah,
you put it at the bottom, it actually kicks it out.
yeah,
So I mean, I'm sure it's probably designed on purpose that way, but I was just tinkering.
yeah.
I
It's
just wanted
also
to
if
see.
you thread it the right way. So if you
Hmm.
thread it like you're supposed to go over, in, out, like kind of like that way. If you go
Yeah,
the other way, it'll go the other way. So you want to make sure it's threaded the right way so it goes out with it.
The
yeah. Hamsky
question
did
for
a
you
good
guys:
job with it. So
isn't there a I saw an ad for Hoyt the other day, and they were showing and touting the way the drop away string went through the middle of the riser. Is Hoyt
Mhm.
designed something specifically for that?
Yeah, so Hoyt has that little I guess when you hold your bow like this, it has the riser comes around the back of your wrist. It
Yeah.
almost like slides in like a glove. And all the dropaways had either go around it, so, or you had to have a long string down low so it would then rest against it. Now they're putting that hole in the middle because they want to keep that rigidity of
Mhm.
the that's how they get the strength in their riser and being a forward top and bottom limb. So putting that hole in the middle of it will stop that string stretch around it, and you'll get a faster reaction flop on that drop away. So it's actually a really cool design that they did just for them. But it's if you use it or not, pretty much.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, and then same thing like Troy, I put the QAD on yours. That's the new R2 drop away. It's a lighter rest than the integrate because the new primes don't have the integrate system in yet. So I put a burger hole screw with a connector that gave you an integrate system in the back with the R2 rest. So if you wanted to switch to a Hamsky or anything like that, you have the option of an integrate option in the back. But yeah, that's the new QAD setup that they have there, and it's the same thing. String to the cable that drives down. So when you draw back, it rises up. It's alternate of the Hamsky, where it's up regular or down regularly and then comes up when you draw. So just a little different options out there for whatever people like. So
Nice. Yeah, I noticed it's similar. I have a QAD on my Matthews, so this is obviously just a newer model. It's
Yeah.
nice.
So
what I
is that
like
one?
to,
Does
yeah.
that one have the? Gosh, I'm trying to remember. So on the QADs that are integrated for Hoyt and Matthews, is it like an aluminum launcher, or is it what is? It's a different
No, so
material.
the rod is aluminum, and then there's that composite launcher or V or U, whatever you want to call it, on there, and then you can put
Yeah,
the felt on there as well.
because
So it's the same.
it almost looks caged, right?
No, it's more they did that on the side of it just for the look to
Okay.
match it. So they had to add a little structure to it because of the integrate for Matthews and Hoyt and Bowtech is micro adjust, where his is not micro adjust. His is an Allen screw and slide. Because they don't make one yet for Prime, which they will if they ever go to an integrate setup, which I don't know if they'll do or not, but probably with pressure from the people outside. But that's to add rigidity to that drop away fork so that it can move left or right, where before it was stationary with screws. It didn't have to worry about having that much force on it. So sorry, I'm
Cool.
Italian. I talk with my hands.
That's funny.
Cool. And then you got the old traditional whisker biscuit there that Josh uses.
I noticed I didn't say anything. I was laying back. I was sitting back there. I
I
was
will
sitting
tell
back
you,
like a crouching tiger.
yeah, the whisker
I was.
biscuit is one of those age old. It's been great from day one. Hunting rest. If I was shooting any sort of 3D or target, I would not use it at all. But if I'm going hunting and you upkeep on switching out the bristles, if you shoot a lot, it's a great rest. The arrow doesn't fall out. It's always ready. You really got to make sure your fletching's glued in the right way. And the new ones have the black bristles at the bottom. And I see that a lot in the shop where people will be shooting cock feather down on those, and there's that black bristle at the bottom. They're stiffer, so that's meant to hold the arrow, and it's not meant for the fletching to go through. So that's where I see a lot of issues with that. But if you use them the right way, I mean, they're tried and true. I mean, it holds the arrow there. So
Yeah, I mean, my philosophy is I use it forever. I like it. There's nothing I don't like about it. I prefer not the drop weight just for several reasons. One, it's more mechanical. To me, more mechanical things, the more you have to go wrong. Two, parts move. I don't like that. And three, it's trapped, but yet if I move my bow around, that arrow's kind of flopping around that fork, and I just don't like it. Not for me.
yeah, and that's where I think this is the first year, like I've used Hamsky before, and I've set up a ton of them, but this is the first year I've really put reps through on it, and I like it for accuracy. I like the QAD better for hunting because you could incline the forks to hold it up. And yeah, if you're going left or right, it does flop around a little bit, but it'll never fall out. Where the whisker biscuit just holds it right there. And the only downfall to that is if you bump the arrow, it can get stuck in the whiskers one way.
Right, right.
I have a terrible habit of just holding my finger up over the arrow against the shelf of the riser. So I guess
That's because you
I
shoot
don't know.
Hamsky for a long time.
Yeah, I have shot for a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially spot and stock too. Like I just like to have like I hold it super tight so it's not banging up against the riser or anything, the arrow. So I don't
Yeah.
know, just habit.
Yeah.
Cool. Cedric, what do you think? What's your opinion? I know you shot on your Hoyts, you've had QAD on there, and now
Yep.
you switched back over to the Hamsky rest. So what do you think of that?
Yep. So this is the first year that I've actually ran a Hamsky. I've usually shot a QAD on almost every bow I've ever shot, to be honest with you. Because most bows that I've shot have been Hoyts. This is the first year, obviously, I've shot a prime. So, but my first opinions have been pretty good. I've got the what the heck? I've got the Hamsky on my inline, and then I've also got it on my Rev X4 that got here today. So haven't got to shoot the Rev X4. Pretty sad about that because I haven't had enough time. But on the inline, I mean, like you said, as far as like accuracy and everything goes, I'm pretty pleased with it. I've shot a drop away for a really long time. It works for me. I love it. Kind of like Caleb was saying, I'm so used to, if I do any, I mean, I'm obviously more used to Midwestern type hunting. So, as far as the arrow moving around, I don't have to worry about a whole offset sitting on a hanger, until it's ready to get busy. So, but the little bit of spot and stock that I have done, I hunted out in Colorado last year, chasing elk and everything, and kind of the same thing as Caleb. I just throw my finger over it and it doesn't go anywhere. And whenever it's time to do business, then I just pull it off and it's fine. So, but I like it. I like it a lot. It's the first limb driven rest that I've shot. So that's taken a little bit of getting used to. Every time I draw back, I kind of freak out just a little bit. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is about to, fall off or anything. But I like it. I like it a lot. I think they did a marvelous job with it. I love the integrate system. I think that's where every bow company is going to, Hoyt, I mean, Matthews, Hoyt, Prime, I think if you're not, I don't think if you don't have that inline system kind of operating on your technology, you're kind of behind the ball by now. So
Yeah, I think that Bowtech has it. I think the new Expeditions have it as well. Elite has it. Prime hasn't made that jump yet, and they put a lot of money and time and effort into sustaining that center grip technology and the integrity of their riser to keep it dead center. So that's a lot there. I'd be interested to see if they take that next jump. And the one thing I like about Prime the most and what's drawn me to them is, and Caleb and I were talking about this the other day, is they've stuck to their guns. Like while everyone else was going out chasing integrate this or integrate sight or stabilize, whatever, they've stuck to their core of, we're just going to make a badass bow that is tough and rough and shoots like a dream, period. And all that other stuff is proven just to be luxury. So yeah, and they've also kept costs down a little bit with some of that. So I'll be interested to see what they come up with here in November, December when they launch their new line. So but so far, super stoked with the new Prime, the Rev X. Most of us have gone with the longer axle to axle, the 33, 34 between the inline and the Rev X. So, how are we feeling with the little bit longer bows? Josh, I know you went with the 32, just because you like a little bit shorter bow because you do a lot more tree stand hunting and all that. But how are we feeling with the little bit longer? I know for you, Cedric, that's a big jump.
yeah, I mean it is, but before I switched over to Prime, I mean I was shooting. I shouldn't say I was shooting because I never actually got to shoot it. I think I shot it 3 times, and never actually even set it up. But I had the VTM 34, so so I like the bigger axle to axle. It's something I kind of was going to this year. It's something that I really wanted to try out. Caleb and I had plenty of talks about that. I kind of wanted to have a bow that I could hunt Midwest with, but I could also go out west and hunt. And then also I'm kind of starting to get into just a little bit of type of a like tournament type shooting here locally. And so that's the other reason why I like it is that 34 axle to axle, as I can take it, get it set up and, take it to some tournaments and shoot it as a tournament bow. So I like it a lot. I like the forgiveness in a bigger axle to axle opposed to maybe a little shorter. But I also get what Josh is saying with, having a little shorter axle where you're hunting out of trees, you're hunting out of ground blinds and stuff like that. I used to have the Triax, the Matthews Triax, which was like 28, I think.
Yeah,
It was like the
small
shortest bow. It was like
Small.
the shortest. Yeah, it was like the shortest bow I've ever owned in my entire life. But I liked it. There was actually a couple shots I had out of a tree stand that if I would have had a bigger axle I couldn't have made. So I just think it's, find out what works for you and the type of game and type of hunting you're going to be doing and roll with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've noticed between the 32 and the 34 and the RevX models, Josh, setting up yours and shooting yours, there wasn't much difference in the stability platform. The 34 obviously is just money for me. I've always liked a little bit longer axle to axle, and I've struggled shooting shorter bows where I've tried very hard. because I'm a big whitetail hunter as well and got more into a longer bow going out west. But that 32 has been very stable in the hand. So I think they nailed it with that platform length. I think that's a pretty good standard um, length there to have. So
Yeah, no, I
what are
agree.
your feelings on that?
Well, I had the I used, before a while ago, my standard go-to bow is that Matthews Creed XS. A super short, what, 28? Is that 28, Paul?
Mhm. Yep.
Very short axle to axle, and it's for that reason what you guys were talking about, the tree stand hunting, maneuverability. I don't like running into things with a bottom cam or top cam, but that was a solo cam. And then going to the Bowtech, that Bowtech's longer. I don't know how long that axle is on that Revolt. It's got to be
I guess,
34.
yeah, I think it's 34, the
Yeah.
Revolt. Yeah.
So I mean, I shoot it stable. If it's very stable, I mean, I can tell the axle is longer because it's inertially it's more dead in hand. But I'll tell you, going from that Bowtech to this Prime Revix as dead in hand for sure.
Great. Now I know, just speaking about that Revolt. Sorry, I've drawn a blank on the axle to axle. I want to look it up. It's
It's yeah, Bowtech's got to be
33.
33.
33, yeah.
Okay, so it's like
Yeah,
in the
six and a
middle.
half inch brace height, 33, 80-pound draw. I will say, I mean, I have one in the shop as well that I set up because I got it from Bowtech right after you got yours for Africa because I fell in love with it.
Yeah,
And it's pulling maxed out, which is weird. Bowtex is coming in underweight. It's coming in at like 78.4 pounds, which historically has kind of been their MO a little bit. I know the primes are coming in way over. I mean, I think Caleb, yours is pulling 74.2.
Yeah.
I think the Scar was. I know your inline there, Troy, was pulling 72.3 maxed out.
I was gonna
Josh's is
ask you if
pulling.
you turned it up because my couple shots, man, I was feeling weak.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're definitely coming in a little heavier, which I like, because I I don't prefer to shoot 80 pounds constantly because it's just annoying on your shoulder, but I do feel like sometimes 70 pounds is a little easy. So it coming in heavier is nice, but I was a little taken back by the Bowtech coming in a little bit underweight on that. But I mean that's a sweet bow too. I
it
mean,
is.
the
It really
one the
is.
one thing I really like about the Bowtech, and sorry, I'm talking a lot here, guys. I'm a bow guy. I love it. It's my passion, is their technology is far above anybody else's when it comes to their cam system and their adjustability. I mean, yeah, I set up Josh's bow for Africa and dead center, shoot it, boom, boom, still getting a little bit of tear. I just take an Allen key and twist those cams a little bit this way, a little bit that way, boom, 2 seconds, it's done. It doesn't need to press anything, and it's just laser in there. So I really like that design. What I don't like about that design is it kind of takes away, it looks like it's going in the direction of taking away that archery tech. Because if you know how to put a D loop on, you know how to put a peep on, you know how to time a rest. If you have to shim your cams, you don't have to anymore. So what do you need a tech for? So I think if they were to ever go to an online platform, that would probably be the first brand that did it because of their technology, which would quite honestly just destroy the small business archery shop out there,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit of what's the bear that you're shooting? Is it 32 or 30?
It's an execute. I think it's a 32. I don't know. I think it's a 32. I mean, the going to all the platforms. When I shoot, I will say that there are subtle differences, but there's a whole lot of similarities too. I mean, there are differences in back wall and smoothness of draw and the rollover. The cam timing. The hardest bow, I think, for me to draw back, and I know it's an 80-pound bow, but you feel it pulling back. Would you agree that 80-pound bow tech, you feel it pulling back? I mean, it's a challenge if that thing
Yeah.
to roll over.
Yeah, I mean, you don't feel it until like the fifth one. I think the
Yeah,
first five
yeah,
shots, you're like,
yeah,
all right, I got this. And after that, you're like,
yeah.
okay, wow, this thing is 80 pounds.
Yeah, but it's smooth.
So,
I mean, it's one of these smoother bows I've shot, parallel to the Prime Revix. I mean, but the Prime, like Caleb said, Caleb, you're so spot on. Like you've been shooting it more than any of us. I can put that arrow exactly where I want it to go within a dime, out to right now probably 40 yards, not past 40 yet, but I'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've shot every bow this year a lot, and I mean, I've harped on them the entire time we've been on this podcast. And I mean, you just don't know until you shoot it for yourself. So now that you guys are actually experiencing it, um, there's just no other way to put it other than they're just they're just built different. I mean, I don't really know what else to say
Yeah.
about that, you know.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
know
they're
if you saw
just
my picture, but literally the second shot, I was just trying to group them and see what it was doing, and I hit the first damn arrow. So, way to go.
It'll happen. Man.
it'll
That's just because
happen.
you had close in the front, right? That's just
Yeah,
why-
yeah, I shouldn't have done that either because it really tore it up.
Yeah.
Oof.
Oh well, I'll send you more arrows.
Yeah,
But for
Uh,
me, I like as far as talking about axle to axle, I've shot a little bit of everything. I would have to go back in time and look at some of the bows that I've had. Paul might know some of these off the top of his head, but one of the bows that I actually shot really, really well, and I think it's because it had the same cam as my target bow, was the Hoyt Alpha Burner. I don't know if you remember those or not, but it had the Spiral
yeah,
X cam.
32 Spiral X. Yep.
Yeah, the Spiral X cam, and I shot that one really, really well. And I want to say it was either 32 or 33 inches axle to axle, but as
They
time
had
has
a
evolved,
30 and a 32 and a 34. The Alpha Burner 32 and 34. So you can
yeah, I think mine was the 32 then.
yeah.
But over time, I've learned that everybody has a sweet spot, I think, and mine's that 33. Like 33 inches axle to axle is like my perfect ATA. And I just honestly, like, the biggest reason I don't go with smaller axle to axle is the string angle. I'm not a big fan of a tight string angle, so that's why I stay away from smaller bows. I think anymore the technology is good where you can shoot a smaller bow just as accurately. It's just, for me, it's just string angle at this point. So
Yeah, like Troy, he's got a high peep, D loop to peep height in his draw. So going to that 33, 34 has probably helped you and will help you in your accuracy when you shoot, because your peep on your other bow has got to be pretty close to the top of that string. So where here it's going to give you a little bit of flexibility there. So you should be once you move that sight over a little bit, you should be pretty good
yeah,
with that and more accurate. But I'll tell you that inline is light. I mean, I
yeah,
shot the RevX a lot, and then I was setting up the inline for you and Cedric, and it's significantly lighter.
yeah. I thought you were playing a prank on me or something when I first grabbed the box. It's so light. I'm like, I don't know if he sent everything or what's going
Surprise!
on
Did you
here.
really think I was going to do that?
Yeah, but no, it's sweet.
That's cool.
yeah, no doubt. And like, I got to talk about this before I forget, but now that you guys all have a prime in your hand, and Paul, you see every bow that's made probably, but the fit and finish of a prime is second to nobody. It's almost like the aluminum is just that color, whether it be camo or a solid color, that there's just no flaw in it. And I don't want to bash any other companies out there, but man, like, there's some where you could nick it up against something and it's just going to chip off. And I just don't feel like I could do that with my prime. It's insane how the fit and finish is just ridiculous. They've done a phenomenal job of getting that done.
Yeah, it's you're right. It pretty much feels like it's part of the aluminum, itself and the riser. It really looks nice. So Cedric, what do you think of that black? It's way better in person, huh?
Man, it's like
Yeah.
Caleb said. I mean, and kind of like you said, in person, it's a whole nother deal. So the other thing I love about Prime is kind of away from like the techie side of everything. I mean, they just have like the best colors. Like if you look at every boat company that's out there and their finishes that they produce, I mean, you look at all the different colors that Prime has, is just awesome, and every one of them looks amazing. So but yeah, that black is sweet. I got my green dot, like, I should say my green, it's like more like sage, but dialed sight on there with like a black wheel, and it's looking real good. And then those green accents on the ham ski, and then on the peep, and on the D loop and everything, it's looking real good. I can't wait to shoot it.
Nice. Well, yeah, I hope you enjoy it. It's a great company. I mean, the only reason we're talking about it so much and really getting in depth in it is we've shot everything, like Caleb said, and it's just the best this year. I mean, we've shot the Phase 4 by Matthews, and I mean, it just can't hold a candle to the prime. You shoot that prime and then you shoot that phase 4, you're just like, I am not gonna. It vibrates and makes all sorts of different things when it goes off. It's slow as molasses.
Yeah.
They're really just selling their integrate system. And I've been a Matthews fan for years. I shot Bowtech originally, starting off, and then I switched to Matthews, and I was with Matthews um, from the Legacy to the Switchback XT, all the way through the Halon to the VXR, and then I went to the V3, and then I stopped. And I stopped because there was no difference for me between the V3 and the VXR, let alone go into the V3X. So for me, they got to the point where they've had the same can system for 5, 6 years. They're just selling a marketing ploy to get you to buy stabilizers and sights and rests and stuff and integrate and get your bow value over $3,000 when you go to buy it. And the minute it leaves the building, it's worth 1,500. So, I'm not a fan of that kind of way. I know those diehard Matthews people are probably going to get on me for that, but I still think they're one of the best in the business for development. But they got focusing on those little things. They got left in the dust this year, and I think a lot of people underestimated what Prime and G5 can do. Kind of because of what they've done in the past with their parallel cam system and really kind of sticking to their guns and what they believe in. But man, they took a leap over everybody this year, hands down, in my opinion. And I've
Yeah.
shot all of them, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was sitting there actually while Paul and I talked earlier, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, man, if I couldn't shoot a prime, what would I shoot? And I don't know. I mean, because there's so many that are like neck and neck. So yeah, I was thinking about that a
I
lot
think
too.
it's
But
a better question is, if you never experienced the new Prime, what would you shoot? Because you would never know, right? And yeah,
yeah,
you can shoot the new Bear Execute is great, the new Expedition is great, the new Hoyts are great. I'm not a fan of the RX-7. I think the RX-5 is better personally.
dude,
I think their
I'm telling
aluminum
you,
bow is better than their carbon bow currently. Um,
that Omnia is that's the best elite bow that they've come out with for a
yeah,
long time. A
I was gonna ask about
long
that.
time.
I don't know about them.
They're I'm just gonna say for an elite, they are elite. I mean,
yeah,
they're nice for what they've been putting out.
yeah.
So
I shot
good
on
job to the engineers over there.
Yeah, I shot on their team through the Ritual series, and I thought that was a pretty sweet bow. And then um, I left just because they really didn't have a future in regards of technology. Like they kind of were stagnant, and they've kind of changed that. Their Carbon Era just got Bow of the Year. The Omnia just got Bow of the Year. Just really nice bow. The downfall to them is the quality of their screws and their cam systems. And even in anything that has to do with a screw, it's just so soft. And I mean, Josh can tell you, I crank shit down. Like, if something's going to be tight, I want it tight. Growing up, my dad used to say, like, there's tight and then there's Paul tight, like, because if it's supposed to be tight, it's not going to move. And maybe partially that's my fault with cranking a little bit too hard. But I mean, I set up my son with the new Ember kit, and I think it's a great bow for him to grow with. And it's beautiful. It shoots nice and smooth, but with getting him to the right draw weight and switching back and forth and moving the modules, like now there's a bunch of little marks in there. And for me, for a fit and finish kind of guy, that kind of annoys me if I'm spending, $1,200 on a new Omnia, and if I have to switch out the modules, or I want to have, move the draw stop for more let off or less let off, now I have a mark there. And that as an owner, that would annoy me. So I hope that they put a little bit of a thought into that when they do it. So
Here's
Yeah.
a question for you guys. I was thinking about it while you're discussing the integrated systems on bows, Paul. So I'm chronographing all these bows, right? Every bow I shoot, I chrono. Sometimes it's for the site. If it's like setting up a Trophy Ridge digital react, I need to know that speed. Sometimes just because I wonder. And so I chronoed all these bows. And there's a thought I'm out there. Get what's going on, but I want to bounce off you guys. Do you think that because all these bow companies, the cream's rising to the top, but if you shoot any top range bow, you're gonna get a fairly good shooting experience, if you guys would agree. All top range bows, doesn't matter what you shoot, they're gonna shoot fairly well. Would you agree?
I would.
Most of them, yeah. We all know that because those of us that shot them all, we all know that
It's all
they're,
preference.
it comes down to preferences. But then you're going to see, you're going to see 10 feet per second here or there. Some bows are 10 feet per second faster, 303 versus 275. And my lowest bow, I won't say the name of the manufacturer, but I think the slowest bow I'm shooting right now is at like 265 or something like that feet per second. So what my belief is, all these bow companies are going, hey, they're getting fast, we're about the same, we're milking out all the kinetic energy and engineering we can in these bows. Let's make money by integrating all the systems into our company, so you have to buy our stabilizer and our sight, and it's only going to work on our stuff. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, you're right. And that there are other companies that are then tagging on to that so that it's not locked. So I mean, Matthews is a prime example of that, right? They're the leader in
Yeah.
design and engineering and anything for 15 years now.
Mhm.
They have enough technology for 5, 6 years ahead in regards to bow design and setup. So they're the ones that are leading that pack in that they do then help other people. So they do work like the integrate system came through QAD and Matthews combined. They worked together to develop a rest specifically for Matthews and that integrate system. So they reached out to QAD and they worked together to develop that integrate system from there. And that was really the start and the foundation of anything integrated. And then Hoyt went the other way with a gun more approach with the Picatinny system on there, which really is a more consistent, tighter lockdown system using a Picatinny rail. But it does give you flexibility. It does set things back and forward more because you're off the riser a certain amount. But you can really crank things down tighter, and it's a more reliable product where it's not just clamping on to the riser itself. But once you get your center shot or whatever, you're not moving that stuff a lot, so there's really no difference. But yeah, it's a marketing ploy to make more money, honestly. For me, and if you really get into talking to some of these designers, um, archery and compound bows have hit their max of what they can do in regards to efficiency and speed. It's done. It's over. So now they have to come up a way, smoothness, cam rollover, back wall, let off,
Mhm.
you know, you can toy with getting into the 350 360s with speed, but if you get them all in a room and speak to them, the only way to get more speed out of a compound bow is to go below that threshold of about 3 grains per inch of arrow, which is the lightest in arrow weight, and then you're getting into a dangerous situation. So if they're going to get more speed, everyone agrees that they have to go to a lighter arrow, which is then dangerous for the bow, dangerous for the shooter, dangerous for everything. And carbon, aluminum, carbon, whatever mix is not strong enough to hold that. So until they can develop something in the arrow industry to hold that spine, and I think that's why you're seeing these, 6, 5, 4 tapered arrows, whatever, down is to get that rigidity in there and also penetration for strength so that the bow companies can then get faster. Until we can get an arrow that's reliable enough to get faster, you're never going to see a bow crest that threshold. It's just too dangerous. And all these manufacturers' heads have all gotten together and they understand that this is the limit of where they can go.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I've spoken to quite a few engineers, and I'm okay with saying the manufacturers, but PSE, so Paul, you'll remember this. So, gosh, what was the name of the one company? Now I'm going to forget. But anyway, so when PSE came out with the Omen, they weren't actually supposed to release that bow, but somebody else dropped a speed bow and they're like, crap, we need to pump this thing out. And then everybody was pissed because they couldn't get their hands on it because there was only like 3 of them.
Yeah.
But I've talked to people that work at PSE or worked, and they have bows that shoot over 400 feet per second, but they're just dangerous. Like they're not, it just isn't, it's not healthy or logical for a person to shoot it. And I'm most positive that Matthews, Hoyt, Ellie, like they probably all could, but safely, like you were talking about, there's just no way. And
It's a safety issue. And they've all
yeah,
agreed not to until they can have an arrow company, keep up with that. Um, and make it. So
Well, and
you're 100% right.
as far as the integrated stuff too, since we're talking about it, maybe get into this a little deeper. I think I really don't know how to feel about the integrated stuff. And the reason I say that is because every bow balances differently. Like that Matthews is extremely top heavy. So you're going to have to run a back bar with a decent amount of weight off of the back to counteract that so that it's not tipping forward on you after the shot. But like Hoyts, they are more like, I guess they would tip back like towards you instead of going forward. So they're more backwards heavy. So I think the integrated system might be a way for you to kind of balance that bow. But I also have noticed that more and more people are getting away from using like longer stabilizers now. Like that was becoming a thing. And then now it's kind of going away because of the integrated stuff and also because of different balancing. But I personally, like, I hope, and I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I hope Prime doesn't, because I really like the way that they balance out right now. So I really hope that they don't, because I feel like if I was to put, say they did have a Picatinny mount on the front of that riser, it's no longer going to balance the way that it does. It's going to fall forward. No doubt about it. Like if I throw my dialed on there, it is going to fall forward. No, like hands down, no questions asked. So I kind of hope that they do stay away from it. I mean, I prefer that it not be on there. So that's just my preference.
I mean, when I set up all your bows, I didn't put anything on them. I mean, some of them had a sight, some didn't, because you have your own sights. But I mean, they just shot dead in the hand and they were straight. So some bows just don't need it.
Yeah.
Troy, for yours, I put that on there just for, stability in the shot, and for you to just, you take it off and shoot it. You're not feeling anything. It's not absorbing anything. It's just there for, whatever. So, change that up as much as you want on there. If you want a shorter one, a longer one, whatever. But I'll tell you, at this point, you're just adding weight to your platform by doing that. So, but yeah, I think there's a ton of different options out there, and there's reasons for all of it. But as a shop owner and being in this business for a long time, I think that everyone has to understand that you have to shoot what fits you and what works well for you. So if you have a shop local to you, or you come to my shop, like I told someone the other day, like I'll throw a rest on any bow that's hanging up there, and you can rip an arrow through it to see how you feel with it. Because you don't know. Just because you see, Lee and Tiffany shooting a Matthews, or this person shooting a Hoyt or whatever, doesn't mean, you want it because they have it, doesn't mean you can shoot it. That's the big difference. And I see so many people coming in being like, oh yeah, I want the new Hoyt. I'm like, okay, great. Like, have you shot it? No, I never even picked it up. Okay, well,
Right.
you know, try it, plus try a couple others and then see how you feel.
I can second Caleb on the PSE Omen. I remember that bow because I somehow bought one. I know I had one for a period of time, Caleb,
I had one too, yeah.
but
Yeah.
I took it back, and here's why. Not that I didn't like the company or the bow, but for me personally, when I drew that bow back, and I remember this at the back wall, I had times where it would inadvertently want to just pull my hand forward,
Yeah.
like I couldn't hold it back.
Yeah.
There's
That's
no
where
stop.
That's where the speed's at.
It would just lurch me forward, and I couldn't even really aim it. And so why I like the speed, and I was, at that point in my life, younger kid, probably all about the speed, not really realizing, hey, we need some inertia here too and some weight. I just didn't like it because it like jerked my release arm forward. So
No, you're
I wish I
100%
could.
right.
I wish I could remember the other company that released a speed bow. I for the life of me cannot remember who it was. I don't think it was Matthews. I think it was someone else.
Matthews has
But
never released a speed boat.
no, they really
They've
haven't.
never been about speed.
Hoyt just dropped theirs.
So
Was it like the Z?
was
like
it the
Z7?
RPM? Didn't
No, it was
Bowtech
like-
launch the
Yes, there you
RPM
go. It was the
360 or
RPM. Yes.
350?
that's
It
what
was
around that time?
It was the RPM. Yep, it was the RPM.
That's
I
Bowtech,
think
right?
yeah.
Bowtech.
So Bowtech's kind of always been known for speed, like a little
Always.
bit. Like they've
Always.
always kind of, chased that a little bit. But I remember when PSE came out and they were mad because they could not get an Omen because they'd only made like 3 or 4 of them, but yet they dropped it. Oh yeah, we've got this bow, but people are waiting 6, 7, 8 months for one. But yeah, so it's actually really unique to see all these companies and where like kind of watching them evolve over time. Cause I started hunting with like a 1994 PSE Nova or something, you know? So to like see all these bows evolve
I
over
had the
time.
PSE Polaris
Yeah.
round wheel bow.
Yep. So is my Nova. And it's but yeah, Paul, you're definitely right. Like we've reached the pinnacle. Now it's all about shooter experience and what you like and dislike. I don't think that they're going to get any faster. And honestly, I don't even know if you really need to. Um, that's just me personally. I don't know that you necessarily need to have a bow. Like for my draw length, if I really wanted to push the limits and say shoot like a 360 grain arrow, 370 grain arrow, I could shoot 320 feet per second, but why? Like I just don't know that you're really gaining a whole lot. So like for me, the sweet spot is that 270 to 290. You know, that's where I like to be. If I can shoot a 450 grain arrow between 270 feet per second and 300 feet per second, I'm happy. Like that'll kill anything anything in the lower 48. So I'm cool with that.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
shooting that new prime that Paul got me, that Revx 2. I chronoed it with my hunting arrow, and that's a FMJ with 100 grain Clovis in the end at 550 grains, and I'm pretty sure it clocked like 272, 273.
550 grain arrow.
That's
Yeah.
grooving.
Cruising.
It was moving.
That's
That's
grooving.
moving.
Yeah, and it was smacking hard. It was perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Troy, I know you just took a couple shots. You haven't really got into the depth of it yet, but compared to the Matthews that you have, and I know you got an older version, what were your first impressions of that prime?
Honestly, just right out of the box, just how light it was. I mean, you spoke about it before we started the show, but I pull my quiver off. You know, I'm used to getting in the tree stand and pulling the quiver off. So I shoot the bare bow, just with, just the arrow and sights and stabilizers and everything. So to me, how light it was, how stable it was. I mean, I love that Matthews I shoot. That to me so far that had been the best bow that I had shot. But no, that prime I only threw a couple through it the other night. But man, it sits still. I come to full draw and it said the pin settles right where I'm looking and it's sweet. I mean, it just sits there. So I didn't
Great.
have any vibration. I didn't have any noise out of it. It's quiet. I have no complaints at all so far.
What did you think of the
Nice.
grip?
I didn't play with it too terrible much, but I mean, it's comfortable. It feels good when I picked it up. I've read about them, with the nano grip technology or whatever they call it, where the gel supposedly is going to get warm, which, I'll love because I'm a fair weather hunter, man. If I don't have to be out there in -4, then I'm not going to be out there. I try and get them early in the year, but I don't mind going with everybody and filming and things like that. And I keep my hands in my pockets, but
There you go.
no, it's sweet. I mean, it feels good. The grip's great. I'm happy with it. Like I said, I text Paul, I was smiling ear to ear, it's great.
That's cool.
Good, man. Well, we hope you put some reps through it and make sure you guys register the serial numbers on their site so you get free strings for life on them. I know at the end of the year we're going to trade them out and hopefully switch to their new product unless they decide to go the opposite way in their technology and their development. And I will tell you one thing, like we're pushing Prime a lot because we shoot them, but the only reason we shoot them is because it's the best out there right now. Hands down. Like they don't give us money. They haven't given us bows. They've given us nothing. I've invested a lot into this with them side by side to get this team to be able to shoot them this year. Why? Because if Hoyt or Elite or Matthews or Barton or Expedition or Bear or whoever had one of the best, then I would do the same thing. So it's not because of, oh, someone's giving us money or it's a sponsor or anything like that. No, if they do, amazing. If someone does, amazing. But guess what? If I don't like it, there's not enough money in the world they can give me to make me shoot it. I'm sorry. Like there's some bows out there, like you can pay me, you can give me, you can do whatever. I'm gonna be like, man, I'd rather use a gun. Like I'm
Yeah.
not shooting your product. I'm just not
Yeah.
doing it.
Crossbow. Pick up a crossbow.
Ooh,
Crossbow.
crossbow.
Yeah, I'll pick a crossbow up,
I
but I think I want to just clarify that for everyone out there. And we got a lot of listeners right now. Like, we're not sitting here pushing a product for you to buy, right? we've developed this platform to be honest, to be truthful, to be out front, and to talk about what we love. And honestly, I fell in love with the product. I tried it out with you all. You've all fallen in love with the product. So why not promote what we love? You don't see us sitting here promoting, Hamsky versus QAD versus Whisker Biscuit. Like we all shoot this different thing.
Yeah.
You shoot Ramrods, he shoots Trophy Ridge, he shoots Shrewd. Like this person shoots, CBE sites. You love them, you love them. You shoot dialed, you shoot dialed. I shoot Trophy Ridge. Like we're out there because we shoot what we like, right? And that's preference. Why? And we only have an opinion on it because we've tried all, excuse me, a little indigestion. But that's why, sorry, I'm passionate about this stuff. Like that's why, right? Is we've tried everything. We every year something changes. Every 10 months something changes. So, if Matthews wants to get out of this rut that they're in and step up to the plate, yes, I'm calling you out. Step up to the plate. Like you're getting left behind. Like what was that saying they had forever?
Catch us if you
Catch us if
can.
you can. Like,
You
like
done been caught, son.
you've done
You
been
done been
caught 6 years ago. Like when you
Yeah,
decided to stay in this rut. Like all you're doing is taking people's money away from them and with a better product. So like I don't know. But I will say that there are people out there in this development in these bows that are consistent to what they have. I was a Hoyt fan for a long time, and they're consistent with their design. They're consistent with their product. They have a great product. But you have to be their riser design is specific for an individual. I had a hard time shooting Hoyt for a long time. That's why I didn't shoot them because it was uneasy for me to get used to that riser curl that went behind my hand. But now they've made it in a way where it's not so intrusive on your wrist because I shoot really aggressive with my palm that I shot Hoyt for the past 3 years because I loved them. My RX-5, I shot my elk with. I shot one of my biggest bucks with. Like I love that bow. Um, but they have to now decide what they're going to do, and I think Prime has made that stance. They drew that line in the sand years ago and said, "We're going to have center shot technology. We're going to have the most accurate bow. It's going to be vibration free, and period. End of sentence." Like they have no cam lean. Like that's why they came up with the inline system. That's why they had the dual track cam for so long. Like they had made that stance. And yeah, they messed up along the way on certain products, like their Nexus and their Black Series. They were really hard to tune, just really hard to tune. You had to shim them, you had to do whatever, and if you didn't know how to tune them, you're getting left behind. But now they've really stepped up to the plate. So I'm putting
and
Cedric asleep over there.
No,
Sorry,
my,
man.
my back's a little sore.
Taking a nap.
No,
Yeah,
my
it's
back's
taking
just
a
a
nap.
little sore.
there was a guy
You could tell me to
actually-
get off my soapbox. You wanted to talk about bows and archery, and like I'm the
Good.
archery man here. I give you guys, you shoot, you do all the stuff. I put the stuff together. So
You're the man behind
you
the green
know.
curtain. Man behind the
Yeah,
green
You're the
yeah.
I had a guy ask me, he was kind of playing devil's advocate for me on Facebook in a group that I'm in. And he said, if primes are so great, why aren't they winning 3D tournaments? I said, have you ever been to an ASA? 95% of those people are Matthews shooters. Like
Yeah. Mhm.
even Hoyt itself already knows they're not going to try to compete in that market because all these people want to shoot is Matthews because they pay out the most.
And for the record, they just got first and second place in the shoot today
They actually did. You're right. So I think,
with
it's
using 4-year-old bows.
yeah, the CT9s, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's not gosh,
Troy
I don't
hears
know.
those raccoons coming.
Yeah, I keep hearing stuff, so I keep
Ready.
pulling got a little one up there.
Hey, listen, the only thing I ask,
not
if
going
you're going to
crazy.
go after some coons out there, I expect you to bring the computer with you, hold it in
Yeah.
one hand,
Yeah.
and we'll go
Yeah.
live, baby.
Ah.
It's a surface, so I could unhook it and we'd run out there.
Go live, baby.
There you go.
I want to see this.
I kind of want to
it's great.
hear. So I kind of just because I'm curious, I kind of want you guys to run through your setups. Like, what are you running for stabilizers, sights, poundage, that kind of thing?
Cedric, you start off.
Well, I just got my Rev X4 today, so that'll be my primary bow.
What are you going to build it with?
Yeah, so I got a dialed Arxos on there. I currently have a UV3 XL housing on it, like mag on it. However, I did just get a notification before we got on here that my mag from their 3V mag is on its way. It just got shipped. So
From
that's
Dial.
from Dialed. Yep. So that's super exciting because they
Made
kind of
more than
just
two, huh?
what?
They made more than two of them.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. They just they didn't, I guess, anticipate all the lefties that were going to want everything, I guess. But so
So
I'll be
I do have
running.
to interject, right? So
Yeah.
this whole Dial thing,
Hmm.
when I first saw it come out, they went hardcore into like social advertising, and I thought it
Yep.
was a scam. Like, I'm
Yep.
not gonna lie, I completely thought it was like, okay, that's cool. It's some
April
like,
Fools or something.
yeah, like April Fools or
Yeah.
like some Asian company that like, you'd pay $500 for this site and you get like a toy duck in the mail.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I totally thought it was a scam. I never saw them, I never felt them, I never anything. To this
Yep.
day, I never have.
Yep.
So like, what's the big deal with these things? Like,
I-
why? I don't
yeah.
know. I've never
So
felt one. I never used one. I don't know. They could be the witch's
To me,
tit. I don't know.
well, to me, it's so you
yeah.
have to. And to me, it's so you have to do another step before you actually shoot something. That's my personal opinion.
Well, I mean, that's with any
Single pins.
and
Yeah.
yeah, any type of
Rotary
adjustable
sight.
slide,
Yep.
any
Yeah.
type of slider.
I'm
But
just messing.
no, well, and Caleb shoots one too, so he can hit in here anytime he wants. But I mean, there's a couple different things. So obviously, like their angle technology, whenever you are dialing it, the way that their railing system is it's angled. It's not straight up and
Oh
down.
yeah,
So
it's
yeah, so it's
okay.
angled, right? So
Because it
so
brings
that
it
how
closer and farther as it goes up and down.
Yep, yep,
Okay,
yep. So there's that.
understood.
Their gearing system is all internal, so there's nothing like exterior. So whenever you like, so say you drop that thing
Like
in
a
the mud or
spot
something,
hog where you can see the gears
yeah.
and
So everything's internal. So
doesn't
there's
get
that.
dirty.
I mean, if you get a bunch of dirt on that thing and it does get caked and you roll over that dial, all it's going to do is just spit out a bunch of mud. It's not going to mess with your gears and stuff like that. And I mean, like a spa hog, those things are built to last, man. I mean, I think I could take that thing and I've got like a 40-foot deck and I bet I could throw it off that and nothing's going to happen to it. So, I mean, it's legit. I mean, as far as, as far as that stuff is concerned, obviously the big thing that people talk about whenever they talk about a dialed and maybe like cons to it is it's heavy. So that's probably its biggest thing. Is kind of like
I
a
don't
spot
like
hog.
anything heavy in archery, man.
Yep. So, yep. And that's a lot of people's, I mean, I know Caleb and I have talked about that a bunch is it's heavy. It'd be nice for them to find a way to make it lighter. And maybe one day they will. But I would also argue that any site has something that you can say you don't like about it. You know what I mean?
Everyone.
So yeah, every single one of them, right? So I think for me personally, I'm willing to accept that it's a little bit heavier, knowing that it's more than likely not going to fail on me in the field. Like whenever like their pins, for example, those things, like I don't think I could grab, and I probably should maybe test this. I don't know. If I took a pair of pliers, I don't think I could bend those over because they're built so freaking tough. I mean,
Yeah,
there's some. Go ahead, Caleb.
no, they're thick, and that is one thing that
Yeah.
some people have complained about is that actually so the size of the post where the pins are is the same exact width as your fiber. So it's 19,000 thick. So some
Mhm.
guys have complained about that they're too thick, but it's for durability purposes. It's
Mhm.
not meant for, it's not meant to look pretty or anything like that. It's just simply because they want it to be bulletproof. But yeah, like Cedric's
So
saying, like
I shoot a .10. Do they make a .10?
they do.
Yeah.
And
Yep,
now
they
is that
do.
rise
That's
that incline going to be the same thickness as that .10, or is it still a .9?
No, it's 0.9. It's 0.9.
Okay, so
And
there'll be a depth variation there. Okay.
yep, yep. But everything else that Cedric's saying is dead on. So
yeah, and that's actually what I have coming is I've got the .10 coming for my housing or my mag or whatever. But so as far as sides, that's what I'm running. Hey, got your cat there with you. What's its name?
This is Jackson. He's one of four.
Love it.
He is
Absolutely love
our
it.
indoor outdoor cat. I don't know why he's in our basement house down here, but somehow he got in here and he's
Good
annoying
show.
me. So now he's part of the podcast.
Love
Hi.
it.
Him.
What do you shoot?
Uh,
I'm gonna kill
yeah.
you, Dad.
Yeah.
If you don't let me
Yeah.
go, I'm gonna royally F you up.
But then I also
love
I'm pulling 70 pounds or a little. I haven't tested my poundage on that. I haven't even pulled back that Rev X4 yet, so I don't even know exactly how much it's pulling. But 70 pounds. I'm running ramrod stabilizers off the front and the back. I think Caleb and I don't even know. I mean, I don't know if Troy or Josh are, but I know Caleb and I are shooting those Mark arrows by G5 this year. The 244, the 6 millimeter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I
Yep.
sent Troy. I sent you up with the same ones.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. I just
Yep.
messed one up the other day, so I have to get some more.
That and then I'm going to be
Good
running
thing.
the Clovis this year. So from Josh over there. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then I shoot a Stan Onyx tension release is what I shoot, but I'm probably gonna get their thumb button also. So,
Good deal.
And you're lefty.
and I'm a lefty. I'm a southpaw man. I'm different.
Josh, you shoot a lot of different bows. So what's going to be your whitetail setup?
Yes, sir. So all the different bows I shoot, I kind of come to, for me personally, an alignment that I like this butter. Um, I have, some companies are sending stuff at me to try out, to shoot, to see what I like about it, give them some responses back. I like all the Trophy Ridge stuff, the accessories, the sights, that sort of thing. I will say the Digital React is one absolutely cool sight to go from, have a fixed 20, 30, 40 yard pin, and then have the digital readout to go up to 120 some yards of accurate shot. And the calibration super easy. So you put in your chronograph speed, you shoot once, you pop in your speed, you're calibrated from 0 to whatever. So I like it. Downside, you guys are the same thing. Parallel with the dials, it's super heavy. It is like a concrete block on the front of your bow. So I like the high technology, the sights, but you know what I did? I love the Trophy Ridge sight. I love everything about it. But on the Bowtech and the whitetail bow I'm using, of course, the Prime all year here I'm using, and I think I have it on one of the bears too. I ended up going with a CBE micro 5 pin. I love how light it is. It's strong, but yeah, it's light. It's simple. It's dumb proof, dummy proof. I call it. It just works. It's bright. So I bought one to put on this Prime as well. So I'm shooting. I'm going to be using for my primary bow this year. I'll use a Prime 70-pound Revix 2. I've got a CBE micro 5 pin sight on it. I am not the greatest person with stabilizers. I don't, and I've had a lot of people tell me go with this company, go with that company. I'll be honest. I bought the cheapest stabilizer with the length I wanted, which is short and cheap. And I found one that I liked, and it was a True Glow. So I threw it on. I'm not a person for a back stabilizer, so I didn't put one on. I want to keep my hunting bows super light. And then of course, the Scott good old Little Goose Scott wrist strap release, which I've been using for 200 years, which I love those things. I don't feel quite competent enough yet in any sort of other release, although I see the advantages of the precision there. And then the good old Whisker Biscuit, which I think I'm the only old guy shooting a Whisker Biscuit on my bows, boys, but it's okay. I'll
No,
get
my son is 9 and he shoots a Whisker Biscuit.
then he's the coolest kid on the planet. I
Yeah.
mean, don't worry. I'll eventually bring you guys back to the right side with the rest and such. But I'm just kidding. I think everybody should shoot what they like and works for them. And then of course, a little heavier with a quiver. I did go with the hex lights on all my bows, just simply because they're freaking cool with the lights on them.
Yeah, I like the lights on them. They're cool.
Yeah, so that's my setup on every bow I have right now, and I think I have 4 or 5 vertical bows in the shop I shoot different times. But I'm getting to the point where it's funneling for me. If you guys agree with what I'm saying, you try all this stuff, and then you go
Yeah.
back to what works for you, and you go, okay, this is where home is for me.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, that's what it is. When you get the opportunity to try a lot of things, is you got to pick what works for you. And that I stand by that in everything I do. Is you can want, that bear execute, that expedition for $1,900 and Magonite or whatever it is, and don't know why, and spend that. But if you can't shoot it, you can't shoot it. If it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good.
Can I tell you one more thing that's a giant for me that we haven't talked about yet with bows, and it's something that I think is very important to talk about, and maybe paramount beyond anything. Back wall, straw cycle, release, rollover cam, the grip. to me, the grip is going to make or break a bow to a person, because if it doesn't feel good, you ain't shooting it well. It's going to be horrendous. And some bows have great grips. I will say that like my wooden grip on my old Matthews Creed XS, somehow it fits my hand perfectly, right in the back of that palm, right there. The new Prime with that nano grip, beautifully feeling grip. The companies that just leave their grip bare metal, where they want you to buy another grip or buy one from them or wrap it in tape. I can't stand that, because look, you're buying a $2,000 bow. Like I'll throw an example out there, is that Bowtech Revolt is one of the best bows I've ever shot. It's beautiful bow, powerful bow. I love that bow, but the grip is just the riser. It's just bare aluminum. And so while I shot it like that, I don't really prefer that. I need a grip on my bow that's going to feel good, not too squishy. So it's like mooshing around your hand, something, somewhat cushioned, but dense. So it's going to fit that palm, and it makes you feel so much better when you're shooting.
Yeah, and they give you the
Yeah.
options out there too, as you can, and I know Matthews does this a lot, is you can take their grip, you can take it off, you can add a UV grip, a Be Real, different things to that, side plates, whatever works. But, I'm in agreement. Like, I love the nano grip from Prime. I think it fits me good. Ironically, I've never liked any of the PSE grips. They've always been too big for me. I haven't shot, I'll be honest, I haven't shot their new bow this year yet, just because with them selling out and going to that holding company, they're not taking on any new vendors and all that. So it's been pretty much a pain to get them in. So I can't accurately say grip wise what they're looking like. But yeah, I agree with you completely.
So Paul,
Troy, I know you.
oh,
Sorry.
sorry, I cut you off. No, I was gonna see what you were shooting this year, because we keep talking about ourselves, but we haven't really talked about what bow you're shooting.
No, no, no. We're gonna go to Troy first. I'm gonna save my
Well,
surprise for the
hey,
end.
I'm just that guy that you hand it to me and I'm gonna go shoot it. You know what I mean?
Eh,
If it's tight and feels good and hits where I want it to hit, that's where I'm at. So
yep.
I honestly I spoke to you guys a touch
Sounds like
about
the
it
way you
before.
evaluate women too.
But
Right? And
hey,
it feels
yeah,
good and I can
yeah.
hit
If
where I
it's
want
tight and
to.
feels
But
good, oh yeah.
yeah. No, we'll end on that right there because my wife
Like,
will probably listen to this someday. But
Whack.
no, you got me all rattled. But no, I
I got
honestly
you all
can't
flustered
speak.
and red.
I can't speak on all the technical issues with all that. It might sound silly being a part of this podcast, but I myself am learning, exactly what I do and don't like. I've shot used bows and old bows, and this is the first brand new bow I've ever had, first bow I've ever had that was actually set up correctly for me, if you will, and sighted in. Um, it's like somebody handing you an old shotgun. If you can shoot it, you shoot it and you enjoy it and you get out in the woods. But having something that's set up and tuned and properly fitted to me, I think is going to really change the way I feel about shooting it. So I'm excited and can't wait to experience that side of things, as I progress on this path and journey with you guys. The question I do have, speaking about sights, in the few years that I've been doing this, and I spoke to Josh about this one day. We were at the range, we were talking about, single pin sights and 5-pin sights and everything else. Something that stuck with me, and I've actually caught myself doing it ever since someone noticed it. I'll be up in the saddle and I'll get in a new tree every time so that I don't have shooting lanes trimmed or I don't have this or that, and I'm picking my windows that I think the deer might come through and shoot. But do you guys that shoot those single pins, have you had any issues? This is my question. Say you're shooting out, you think you're shooting a 20-yard shot or you get set up for a 30, 40-yard shot, but then the shot comes out at 50 yards or whatever, and out of a tree here in Ohio. That never happens. It's a 30-yard shot at the most, but the limbs hanging down. A guy told me, say I'm shooting my 30-yard pin, I can always look at my 20-yard pin and make sure there's nothing in the way above that. So is that ever anything that's come to your guys' mind or noticed? Even when I shot that doe this last year, she was at 40 yards and I had trees in the way. So I purposely leaned back a little bit and gave myself a better angle, so that all my pins were clear. So I knew like that the flight path of that arrow was going to be clear. Have you had any issues with that with your single pin sights? I mean, or have you had any,
Not single
experience
pin.
similar to that?
I switch my setups based on whether I'm hunting out west or I'm hunting locally. So with the single pin, I haven't had that issue. What I have had with that issue is you either have to commit to really knowing your yardage and or commit to drawing down to change your yardage to draw back, or know where to hold over. So like if I'm shooting a single pin here in a tree stand in Virginia, the most I could shoot is 30 yards. Like I'm leaving that pin at 20 yards, and I know where to hold over from there, and I don't have to switch anything unless I have time. But yeah, I mean, a good thought process is through your if your peep is lined up to the circle on your sight and there's nothing in variance of obstruction, you should be fine. But remember, if it's at 50 yards and there's something obstructing it at 20 yards, remember your 50-yard pin is going to go up quicker, right? It's going to launch, you're going to be up more, so naturally you're going to hit that. So you're right, you got to kind of keep that in mind in what you're doing. But hopefully it's kind of a thing of how far away it is versus where it is to you. Um, so yeah, you can look at that, but it's not typically a huge deal. It's
I
something
think
to
that's
look out for.
I think that's also one of the nice things that you kind of learn shooting at like events like total archery challenges. Like, because
Yeah.
I mean, it's all hunting scenarios essentially. I mean, not all of them. I mean, there's some where you're like shooting like a bedded elk on like a beachfront and you're like, okay, this isn't, but
Yeah.
but for the most part, I mean, you're shooting in timber and everything like that. And I mean, you have that. You have like a 50 to 90 yard shot on a little mini moose in an acre of timber or whatever. You know what I mean? And those are, I mean, that's why I think it's, I mean, I think Total Archery Challenge, and I've had the pleasure of getting to work with those guys. I think it's phenomenal what they do. They're a bunch of amazing people. I think it's great for archery hunting, but there's also this small twist that I think it's also a little bit like rough for the archery world, just because it gets people in that mindset of like, oh, I can fling a 120-yard arrow or 100, an arrow at 120 yards and, be money as long as I hit the foam. You know what I mean? And then you take that into like the hunting perspective, and people are like, oh yeah, I'll fling an arrow at a, pronghorn at 120 yards and we'll be money. You know what I mean? So you just gotta,
Oh
that's
yeah.
it. Yeah. So, but that's a whole
I
nother,
had
that's a
that
whole nother thing.
scenario, so it's probably 3 years now up at our farm in New York, and um, I consistently shoot long range. Like I'll go
Mm-hmm.
out in my yard and I'll step back to 80, 90, 100 yards, and I can get groups like this, no problem. But when I had a live animal, I was up 25 feet in a tree stand on the edge of a cornfield, and I had a nice 10-pointer stand out. It was 102 yards away. And I ranged it and I looked it, and like I drew back and I was just like, that is tiny. Like that is just
Yeah.
so small. It's not worth it. Um, so it's I do agree with you. I think what people have to understand is that when you go to one of those 3D shoots or total archery challenge, like it's for fun. Right. They put those animals out there 80, 90, 100, 110, 111, 120 yards, whatever, just so to see what you can do. Right. It's
Yeah.
challenge, it's fun. Like those taking animals at that range with a compound bow, I mean, unless you're Cameron Haynes or John Dudley, like,
You
and
better be
you're
spending a lot of
100%,
time behind your bow. You better be
yeah,
spending a lot of
and
time
you're
behind your
doing it
bow.
every day and you're shooting like this at 100 yards, like, don't even try it. Like, get them to come in, try something different. That's just way too far for me. I mean, even 80 yards, at an animal is far. A lot of things can happen, in that time frame. So, hey, some people can do it. Some people try to do it. When I do it, I mean, I shoot a lot. I shoot a lot of different bows. I think my downfall is I don't shoot enough of my setup because I typically either end up setting something up, shooting it, selling it, or doing whatever with it. And, between the shop and people try it or want it. And then, like, I always think of myself last when it comes to that. So I don't spend enough time shooting my own setup, opposed to other people's setups. So that's probably my downfall. Um, but yeah, it's shooting long range is a different beast, and that's where what people don't understand, a lot of those back stabilizers, those longer front stabilizers, that added weight to your bow, the smaller pin size, like that smaller optical peep size, that's where a lot of that stuff comes into play. It allows for a little bit of variance and not much. So that's that with those long range shots, that's where it comes into play. So there's a difference between setting up for that and setting up for a 20, 25 yard whitetail shot, at a tree stand. which most of us do. So, there's a
I
big
do have
difference there.
question for the guys running the dialed or the single pin, Cedric and Caleb, right now. In my personal opinion, I've tried to shoot single pins before,
Yeah.
and I have never hunted with them. And there's one reason. To me, like, and I'm thinking not so much Ohio, but I saw this constantly in Africa. So I know Cedric's talking about maybe going there at some point hunting.
Yeah. Next
here's
year.
my, here's my problem. You've got some alfalfa, you've got some citrus fruit laying there at 30 yards, right? Wildebeest
Mhm.
come in. First of all, wildebeest are all over each other. They're moving around constantly. They're everywhere, right? And you range one at 30. By the time you range it, get your dial adjusted to 30, get ready to take the shot. That thing can move to 40. Like there's less for me with a 5 pin. I can range an animal and still be watching it and range, or have someone say, "Hey, it's 20." 30, and then immediately go to I know where my 30 pin is and shoot. And I don't have that next step of, okay, let's turn the dial.
Yeah.
Is that an issue?
So Caleb might have a different answer. I don't know. So for me, it's not just one answer, I guess. So for me, it's a bunch of things. That's why I personally like shooting a lighter arrow. I mean, there's a lot of guys that die, like they die by, you got to shoot a 500 grain arrow. If you're not shooting a 500 grain arrow, you're doing something wrong. And I don't believe in that. I just don't believe in that. And maybe I'm the black sheep. I don't know. And I'm fine with that. But I mean, I shot a 425 grain arrow all year last year and had no issues with anything I shot. And because of that, because I like speed. I mean, I'm a speed guy. Like I understand you need some weight to an arrow, but I like running. By having a lighter arrow, I can run more weight up front, have better FOC, and that's a whole nother conversation. But by having a faster setup, I don't have as big of a pin gap. So if I have my sight set at 20 and that, XYZ animal walks out to 30, I don't have to, I only have to make minute adjustments. I probably don't even have to, change my dial for me to know where I need to shoot. Cause there's not going to be from 20 to 30, especially with these Rev X's, it's not going to be much. So it's not like you're having to make big adjustments. And then second, I think it's just knowing your location. If I'm whitetail hunting, my top dial is going to be set at 30, just because like I'm already going to have it set to 30. And if that deer comes into 20, I know let's just hold just a smidge low. And these, like I said, these bows are shooting so fast nowadays, and I shoot a fast arrow setup. I hold just a little bit low, and I'm going to be money, and I'm going to smoke him. And then that way, if they do come into 20 and then they bounce out to 30 or then 40, you know what I mean? There's not a lot of changing going on there.
Right. Makes sense.
And a lot of them, like, I mean, I shoot a dialed, but I don't shoot a true single pin. I mean, I'll have 3 fibers on there whenever I have it, right? So I'll have a 20, I'll have to see what it is, but like it'll be a 20, 35 and then 50, you know what I mean? And then you can kind of gap shoot that also. It's not like I don't shoot just a true single pin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's all about knowing your equipment. I mean, I shoot religiously. I honestly, I don't really practice at distances less than 50 yards because, I mean, don't get me wrong, like I'll make sure that my tape is right at that 20 to 50. But for me personally, I just really enjoy shooting longer distances because I like to test myself, but two, there's that sense of confidence. If you can hit, 4-inch circle at 100 yards, there's a sense of confidence that comes along with that. So when it comes to having a single pin in, any kind of situation, I guess it's just knowing your equipment. It's no different than if you have a 5-pin sight. Okay, you have a 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever. Okay, well, what if the deer or whatever animal is 27 yards? You have to pin gap it. It's never a perfect science. You're never going to have the exact right answer unless you're shooting like one of those Garmin range finding sites that changes, the dot or whatever. Mm-hmm. So there's, like Cedric said, there's no perfect answer. I would say if you are a single pin shooter, you're doing yourself a disservice by shooting a heavier arrow because your quote unquote pin gap is going to be way bigger. So for me personally, I'm just being straight flat out honest. I prefer a multi-pin. I shoot better with a single pin. I think everybody would because you're clear sight picture, but I prefer a multi-pin. And the reason is because I've been burned on mule deer. I mean, where, a lot of times it's when they get out of their bed, if you're trying to get them to stand up and maybe they do bound out there 15 yards or something like that. And you do have to let down, with a single pin sight. So for me personally, I prefer a multi-pin. The reason that I'm running this dial this year is because it does have the multiple fibers. So right now on my RevX, the Scar that I have, my top pin's 20, the second fiber is 37, and then the bottom fiber is 52. So that's a pretty decent gap, so I can kind of guess. And then they have multiple indicators. So you have one that's set at 20, and then so like as I'm dialing it down, the further I go down on that bottom pin, the further I can shoot, right? Because Paul to say, like, everybody knows that the further down your fiber is in the housing, the longer you're going to be able to shoot, the further you're going to be able to shoot. And that bottom fiber, I mean, it is buried in the bottom of that mag. It is about as low as it can possibly get down there. So you can really, push the limits there. But so that's really, truly, I'm going to be flat out honest. That's the only reason that I even gave it a chance, because I don't feel comfortable shooting just one single fiber. I really don't. For the type of hunting that I do, it just doesn't work. In my opinion. Now there are guys out there that do it. Like Paul just said, Cameron Haynes, he's a perfect example. Yeah, he shoots a triple stack, but before that, he wasn't. He was shooting just a single fiber, and he was still shooting bulls at 70 yards.
I'll have to look him up. I don't know. I'm not that
Yeah,
guy.
exactly. But that's just my 2 cents, I
Yeah,
guess.
I shoot a true single pin. I'm a single pin fan.
Yeah.
So I have ventured into, so I wear contacts, and I'm nearsighted, so I have a problem seeing far. So for me, if I have a multi-pin sight, which like a 5 pin or a 7 pin, and the pins come from the side of the sight out, I have a hard time. I typically shoot left a lot. So when you look at my bow and you look down the bow and you say, okay, arrows dead straight to the riser, dead center of the riser, dead center of the grip, but then your sight pins are to the right of the arrow, that's because of my eye, or to the left of the arrow, that's because of my eye. And I also have a hard time with the red green alternation. Like red gives me a halo dot. I prefer a green dot. Um, where red, I don't shoot as accurate with a red dot, because the way I see is I see a halo basically. So I like shooting a .10 pin. If they ever made one smaller, I would shoot that, because I would like to, I don't like that halo effect that goes around it. So a single pin coming from the bottom of the sight is perfect for me, because when I draw back, I'm typically on the bull or just around it, and I don't have to go left or right. Where a side stacked pin, I'm constantly moving my bow left or right, and that's hard for me as a shooter. Typically, once your bow goes down, coming back up is hard for a shooter. For me, that's not hard. It's that left to right motion that's hard for me, when I'm locked in. So I've shot both. But I will tell you, my elk that I shot last year, the cows came in, they were 42 yards. I had a couple spots marked out, and the bull came in at 57. So when he was coming up the hill, I was drawn back at 42 yards. He was coming right up at 42 yards, and then he turned around and walked away from me and turned broadside at 57. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, that's too much of a gap for me. So I let down, rolled the dial, drew back, and then he walked around, kept walking, and then he ended up walking back to 42 yards on the other side of the pond. So then I had to aim low, because I couldn't let down again. There are differences there with using a single pin versus a multi-pin. I will tell you, for me as a shooter, if I'm drawn back and that animal's at 40 yards and all of a sudden he steps back to 50, like, I'll have a hard time moving that bow, to that other pin. And for me, I've made the mistake and luckily I was lucky with still getting the animal, but I've made the mistake of using the wrong pin before, on a multi-pin, specifically on a 7 pin where they're really close together, and you have pins out to that 80-yard mark. So, I think it's all personal and what you like. But I will say that every time I go on a hunt, I always set my bow up with a single pin. And then typically when I'm in the hunt, I'm like, damn it, I should have used a multi-pin. Um, and I haven't ventured into the 3 pin stack or the 2 pin stack. I don't know how I would do with that, but it's just preference. Everything's preference, right? What works for you. So yeah, there's a lot of good things out there. A lot of the sites are heavy. I agree with um, Josh there on the new CBEs, like their micro technology. You get the luxury of that micro adjusts left, right, up, down for your first pin, and then you could just move your other pins for what you need for the other yardages. And it's light as a feather. It's $90. Like it's indestructible. Like it's bright as hell. And you can put a light on it if you want. That's a really good site. I've shot Trophy Ridge for a long time. Their React technology is awesome. You shoot 20 yards, you shoot 60 yards or 30 yards, whatever you want to do, and it's dead pin accurate from there. Unless it's the digital one, then you got to put in your chrono speed, but I don't really trust anything that's digital with
I was about to
battery
say, does
life.
that not make you nervous? Like also with the Garmin's, like
The Garmin's,
it's
yes.
it's one thing because
Well, they have a set pin.
I know some guys that shoot Garmin's and they say it's awesome,
If it
but
works.
but if it malfunctions,
You're done.
it's
Yeah.
it's
No,
over,
you're not.
man.
That's
Well,
not
I
true.
mean,
What-
like you said, they have a set pin, but I mean,
Yeah.
could you
And
imagine being
you could set that pin for whatever you want. So if that battery goes dead, you can whatever that set pin is, you can set it for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever you want on
Mhm.
there.
But
So there
but
is a fail safe on
yeah.
there.
There to a
But
degree?
But Cedric,
Yeah.
you're right. No, Cedric, you're right with that Garmin. You're kind of toasted if your battery dies. Now with
That's what I'm saying. Like if you have a bull at 70 yards, right, and you're just like, "Yep, here we go," but you're so used to whitetail hunting that you have your fail safe or your pin or whatever set to 20 or 30. I mean, you are out of the game at that point. You know what I mean?
You are, except for the Trophy Ridge Digital React. And here's what they did: they got smart because they realized what happened with the other one. And so with that Digital React, first of all, and Andy will tell you because he got me set up with that site. If you charge it once, it automatically shuts off after about 3 minutes in the stand of non-usage. So
Mhm.
you can have it on, but it goes
Yeah,
in
so is the Garmin.
sleep mode. Yeah, so it was nice, right? And he said one charge lasted him all season, which is cool. Second fail safe: if the digital part, say your battery just dies, the lithium ion battery just takes a poop and it dies.
Mhm.
On the 3-pin digital react, there's a single pin, and then there's a 3-pin. Sorry about that. There's a single pin and a 3-pin, and for the 3-pin, I can take that wheel and lock it down and have my 20, 30, 40 fixed there. So I'm always going to have 20, 30, 40, and then beyond that, then I'm screwed. If that makes sense,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say for the Garmin shooters out there, the first series, yes. There's a lot of those issues. That the A1i and beyond that, they've resolved a lot of those issues. They're heavy as hell. My uncle and I had this debate when we were on our elk hunt last year. Is you pay X amount of dollars, right, to go on a hunt, and if you can use that site, you pay the six, seven, $800 for that site. Like if it's set up right, you're 100% on the money. So, why not take advantage of that when you're already spending, 5 to 10 grand on a hunt? Why not take advantage and use that technology if you're able to do it? But the biggest thing with me is I don't like anything heavy. Like, yes, I've used the G5, the range finding site on there where it has the pins, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and it has a rangefinder on the side. And, I've tuned that and set that up perfectly target, and I've went hunting and it didn't work. It didn't find the deer because whatever, it was too small or it was too far away. And it was like, okay, well, then I still had to use my rangefinder. So like, what's the point in having it? Yeah, there's flaws in everything, but um, once again, it's all situational and what you want to do. And I like how some of these companies are coming up with the fail safes for that. Um,
Paul, you never told
yeah,
us
I
what you're
mean, one
shooting.
piece of technology you always got to have is a rangefinder, no matter what. If your site does it or whatever else does it, like have a good rangefinder on you because you're going to need it no matter what you do.
Paul, you
Sorry, I
never
cut
told us
someone
what you're
off.
shooting.
Yeah, I got a surprise this year.
30-06.
I Yep, 30-06. Yep. I'm going all out. No, I am shooting the Prime Revix. I have a bow called the Grizz I'm bringing in. It should be here next week. It's a Revx 4. It's in Grizzly Brown, which is an amazing color, limbs and riser. and Prime is making me a 80-pound setup for my moose hunt, 80-pound limbs. So one of the
Sweet.
few out there with 80-pound limbs. So yeah, 28 and a half, 80-pound limbs. Um, Caleb set me up with some ramrods, 8 and 6 inch stabilizers for front and back. I'm probably going to run that. And then rest, I'm on the fence of whether I'm going to use the Prime Hamsky Epsilon or if I'm going to stick to Old Faithful, the QAD. I don't know. I am liking the Hamsky more and more that I shoot it. For a moose hunt, though, I don't know if I totally trust that cable staying on the limb, through all that brush and all that stuff. So we'll see what happens there. That's going to be a last minute setup. And I'm still on the fence with Sight. I've shot Trophy Ridge for a long time, and I'm a real advocate of their product. But the new CBEs are really light and nice. I've not shot a dialed. From what I've heard, they're really heavy, like you guys said, and I'm not a fan of that. And also the price structure for me, even owning a shop, is pretty high. I've always been a fan of HHA. So we'll see. That's going to be up in the air. We'll see what happens there. And then most likely probably going to go with obviously the triple point broadheads, Clovis. I'm going to go with the Gila cut, 125 grain mechanical, and then probably going to drop down to a 250 spine G5 Mark arrow with some halo knocks. So um, we'll see what that does, see what it puts out. I'm interested to see some of the speeds on this 80-pound Revix. So
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be
the
good.
It's gonna
Grizz
be
is
nice.
coming to
We'll
life.
see.
The Grizz.
That's cool.
So yeah, and I'm probably just gonna stick with that throughout the season and murder some deer.
Yeah, that'd
Just
be
gonna
really
blow
cool.
through them.
Maybe
Really
you'll
cool.
get a pass through. Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe,
maybe.
maybe,
I
maybe.
might just shoot him in the shoulder just for
Yeah, just
shits
for
and
fun. Yeah,
Try and shoot two at once.
a blaster bow shoulders, no problem. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
gigs. But yeah, that's what I'm shooting. My son's shooting the new Elite Ember, like we spoke about. Um, I don't know what my wife's going to shoot this year. I'm on the fence on what I'm going to set her up with. She usually shoots Elite. She shot them in the past. She likes lighter bows, and Elite's got a nice light stance to it, fully adjustable. So we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, that's going to be the season this year. So we'll see what happens with that.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. That'd be
Heck yeah.
sweet.
But yeah, I mean, this is the Bowman podcast. We spoke a little bit today on our setups and what we're going to do for different hunting scenarios and all that, and bow setups and different technology out there. We have a guest coming on in episode 8. Mr. Andy Elliott will be back to talk about some conservation and land issues with Hunter Nation and all that. So that's going to be a great episode. Episode 6 is live, obviously, on all your major platforms and on YouTube as well. We're starting to get some good traction on YouTube now, so promote that, get people out there, watch the video of us talking and not just listening to us. So you get to see all that. And then you get to hear the new commercial from Triple Point Outdoors out there promoting the Clovis Broadhead on all those local platforms as well. So like, share, leave 5 stars, follow, whatever you have to do to get us out there, and we'll continue growing. So next time we speak, we'll get probably a little bit more in depth and some arrow weight setup per game. We'll talk about some conservation issues out there, and then the state of the art of our industry and where we're going from there. So, once again, Bowman Podcast. Anyone got any parting sayings out there?
Nada.
Nada.
No.
Nada.
How
All
about-
good.
most-
Troy, I think you said 4 things this episode. Thank you for bringing your pretty face to the.
Yeah, I'm here for the looks tonight. You guys have
There
to
you
get on
go.
YouTube to see it.
Hey, we've all played that role before in the past. So, all right, signing off from the Bowman. Thank you. We'll see you next week.